Over 42% of people in America are obese or overweight. Over 28% of the population is prediabetic and around 12.3% of the population is diagnosed with diabetes, and these numbers are supposed to be over 50% by 2030. And this problem is not just limited to America. In fact, Canada, Europe, Asia, Mexico, the entire globe is facing an ongoing epidemic of obesity and diabetes. We made a detailed video about the extreme and severe cases of how diabetes ruined Mexico. If you wish to watch that video, the link shall be in description. Coming back to our topic, we must not forget that all the credits must go to the unhealthy food choices and their unhealthy food options. A study suggests over 35% of people in America have adopted packaged food or order food from outside. Cooking as a culture is decreasing, and this is exactly what the food companies want. They have spent billions shaping the mindset of people to adapt to the lifestyle that makes people more sick and dependent upon supplements and medicines. The fast food culture was introduced to the masses somewhere back in 1921 with an eatery called White Castle. With time, it was adopted by a lot of other restaurants, and today, food chains like KFC, McDonald's, Subway dominate the globe. It was initially introduced to gather more daily wage workers or travelers and blue-collar workers, but the less preparation time, ease of availability, the artificial taste, the freedom from cooking after tiring days at work or during hurried mornings, fast food got adopted by all. And today, the entire cuisine of America is basically fast food. To be brutally true, there were a few other reasons as well, like urbanization and the limited resources to cook full-course meals. Plus, with the early introduction of gas stoves in houses, fire accidents were very common due to lack of knowledge. The process of cooking was time-consuming, and fast food was also cheaper than preparing food. Then came the culture of processed food. Then the staple diet was substituted with these unhealthy food options. But with such food, new diseases became common as the required nutrition was not present in those foods. So, the concept of food supplements were introduced that were synthetic but were marketed as nutritional superfoods, and people leaned towards them without realizing their ill effects in the long run. It was more likely for the people to trust the food supplements because most of their favorite food brands launched the food supplements, claiming as health beneficial. The food industry and the pharmaceutical industry may be different, but are a lot alike. They are like the two arms, two pillars of the same structure. The food that we consume today is modified in the lab, and the seeds and to-be-grown crops are genetically engineered to make us sick, creating an opportunity and gap in the market for the pharmaceutical industry to thrive. In the early years, most of the food companies were themselves involved in the manufacturing of food supplements and medicines, but as with time, the awareness increased about healthy food, the food companies invested into new ventures and dissected their businesses that helped them clear their names from all doubts in the air. But factually, if you see, even today, the food and pharma debentures are secretly owned by the same parent company. As more and more tests were conducted and more studies were performed, the food and pharma giants discovered their super weapon, diabetes. That was a chronic, lifetime disease and would worsen over time due to the average lifestyle of a modern human being. Today, if you read the ingredient section of the food packs, you will see fancy words are used in the place of sugar to fool the consumer. But it's a truth as clear as water that food companies deliberately add sugar in different forms in almost all the food items. When sugar is out of the question in some foods, they use starch and junk fat to make it unhealthy, which leads to obesity, and obesity will anyway lead to diabetes. In fact, the medicines that we take to control diabetes are labeled and engineered to make it worse. The most overlooked real-life scenario to prove this is a diabetes patient himself. you would see if you observe that between two people diagnosed with diabetes, where one takes anti-diabetics and the other doesn't, the one on medications will reach the stage of insulin shots much faster who doesn't take medicines. In some cases, if managed carefully, some individuals do not reach the stage of insulin at all and lead a normal life. In addition, the side effects of anti-diabetics are much more. Sudden weight reduction, nausea, dizziness, nose bleeding, kidney damage are some common ones, and such side effects leads the patient to take more medicines to control the side effects. Now, the more interesting part, the medicine that controls the side effects also have side effects, and this is how a human being is entangled by these loop of medications till death. In some cases, the medicines are so harmful that the ill effects are carried forward by the offspring of the patient as well. As the rules became stricter and labels began to be taken seriously, they began using different terms and synonymized the chemicals, preservatives, and junk in our foods. For example, sugar was replaced by aspartame, which is an artificial sweetener and is 100 times more sweeter than sugar and is also 100 times more harmful than sugar. Another mockery is the way they present the sugar content, which has changed as the laws became stricter. Now, a 500 ml Coke doesn't tell you it has 230 grams of sugar and rather labels it as only 20 or 25 grams of sugar per serving. The harmful chemicals, sugar, fat, etc. are now labeled for portions and not for the volume of the entire pack. And this trick works upon almost 80% of the consumers. In some cases, the added sugar is not even mentioned and you have to figure it out from the total sugar content. And yes, it's too much work, too much to even stake lives at. Another concerning part of this is the food that is not labeled and is sold in the open, albeit is more harmful and unhealthy than packaged counterparts. For consideration, McDonald's serves French fries which are deeply fried in animal fats, trans fats, unhealthy, days-old reheated palm oils, and people feast on it without realizing how harmful it is for their organs. The question is, how do McDonald's, KFC, etc. still use unhealthy ways to prepare food when options like air frying is available? Isn't it because of the propaganda of making people sick over time? The bigger evil is sugar, without a doubt, but the biggest evil is invisible sugar. As awareness is increasing in people, the flag bearers of ill health are walking at par with it and are creating new and unique acts of forgery, like forcing sugar in our food. Broken down sugar in forms of sucrose, lactose, glucose, starch, dextrose, corn syrup is used in place of simple white sugar, and all of these are just as harmful, if not more. In fact, from bread to frozen bacon, from ketchup to quinoa, from cola to cornflakes, almost all of the food that you consume, even if it doesn't taste sugar, has sugar and has it in dangerous levels. And due to these reasons, today, it may psychologically appear that you are not consuming sugar, but in reality, you are just tricked into believing so. And this food industry has come to a stage where the organic food options that are sold at premiums are at times more harmful for us. The crops to grow food are also genetically engineered to yield more, but that disproportionates the nutritional values of the particular food, often making it anti-nutritional. The invisible sugar content is the main reason for the rise in diabetes, obesity, and other cardiovascular diseases in individuals who follow pseudo-healthy diets and rather believe it to be healthy. Sugar is actually very addictive, and people usually catch this addiction, which makes it worse for them to let go of sugar completely, as it makes them crave it more, and when they get it after craving it, they consume it more. That's how sugar tricks your brain. The way we are engulfed by these slow poisons, it's almost impossible to live a sugar-free healthy life, but the least that can be done is to spend a little time reading the labels and prioritizing health over a little discount. It is really worth it. Eating out, packaged food, cold fizzy drinks, energy bars, and all that food that claims an energy spike has a lot of sugar. You better avoid that. If your nutritional requirements are not fulfilled, try eating natural food. and omit out any kind of food supplements. Exercise often, cook and eat. Don't reheat food, and if possible, grow your own vegetables and fruits. Control your sugar cravings.